Hello, sir. Is it Charles? Charles, you're currently under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything but my own defence if you don't mention one question, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Necessity for the arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation and to prevent your disappearance, okay? If you want to stand up for me, please, just turn around and face the wall. Put your hands behind your back.
A man who murdered an 18-year-old in a callous and unprovoked attack in Ilkeston has been jailed for life. Noah Smedley had met up with a group of teenagers, including a 17-year-old Charles Hartle, on the evening of 28th of December last year. A short while later, Hartle, who is now 18, fatally stabbed the teenager. The court heard how Hartle, who had an unhealthy interest in knives, went with friends to buy cannabis from Noah that evening. Hartle's friends, who was unaware of his intentions and provided eyewitness testimony in the case against their pal, said that all were in good spirits at the meeting. They explained how Hartle had initially stayed slightly back from the rest of the group and didn't acknowledge Noah. Shortly before the group were about to leave, Hartle began edging closer to him. He then stepped forward as Noah went to give him a fist bump goodbye. He pulled a balaclava over his face, grinned and pulled a Rambo knife from his waistband before plunging it into the 18-year-old's chest. Charles Hartle, who liked to go by the nickname Lil C, then fled and went to meet his girlfriend at a house party. Witnesses at the party saw him confess to her and produce the knife, which has never been recovered. So one of his pals, the eyewitnesses, went through actually what happened. So they go on the day of the murder. Charles Hartle arranged to sleep at a mate's house where he would play Call of Duty, drink beer and smoke some cannabis with two others. The court was shown messages sent to a girl shortly after he arrived at the property asking if he could bring 3 friends to a house party about 10 minutes away. As we said, one of the group arranged to buy cannabis from Mr. Smedley, and the 4 teenagers were captured on CCTV heading towards the meeting point. The jury was then shown a message from Mr. Hartle to his girlfriend shortly before they met Mr. Smedley, which read, "We're going to slap him up. We're going to show him that we're the big dogs. I'm Lil C."
Charles, you're currently under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything but my own defence if you don't mention one question, something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. Necessity for the arrest is for a prompt and effective investigation and to prevent your disappearance, okay? If you want to stand up for me, please, just turn around and face the wall.
CCTV footage showed Mr. Smedley arriving on an e-scooter at about 8:15 when the prosecution said the deal was made. Prosecutors told the jury Charlie Hartle hung back. He took a couple of steps forward and a couple of steps back and then appeared to edge forward towards the group, and Noah Smedley. A small light appears in front of Noah. The pair are facing each other. Charlie Hartle lunges at Noah Smedley's chest. He then steps back and the knife can be seen in his hand. Mr. Smedley shouts, "Yo, yo, yo, you stabbed me, my brother." Noah jogs down the street and collapses, and this is the last time he was pictured on CCTV. Then Hartle was then shown running from the scene, with his friends appearing to linger for a few seconds before also leaving. The court was told they called 999 about 30 minutes after the incident. So in a police interview shown to the court with one of Mr. Hartle's friends who witnessed the stabbing, he said there was no indication anything was amiss. He goes, everything was fine, the transaction was made, everything was good. But Charlie at the time was saying nothing. All he was doing was quiet, and there wasn't any argument or anything like that. He was just standing back, and then in an instant he whipped out the knife and stabbed him in the chest in a split second. There was no threatening, nothing like that, and we hung around for about 10 seconds and we got scared and we didn't know what to do, and then we just legged it back and went back to mine. And we saw Charlie and said, "Why did you stab him?" He didn't want to have any conversation and we didn't want any part of him. What a fucking nutcase this guy is. Another one of his friends who was at the scene said Charlie looked at Noah and he pulled up his balaclava at the time. Said, "We didn't realize anything was going to happen as they just stared at each other for about 1 second. It was not really like a stare that you should be concerned about. It was a stare where they just looked at each other by a glance, really. And that's when it happened. He pulled out his knife in an instant and just stabbed Noah with it." The prosecutor said another witness said Charlie pulled his balaclava down so his mouth was on show. He gave a big smile, like a full tooth smile, stabbed Noah and ran away. The prosecutor said it was this defendant who produced the knife that was secreted in his tracksuit bottoms. He said he had a balaclava on that he deliberately pulled down over his face and moved towards Noah. He grinned and smiled before deliberately stabbing him in the chest. This is what his friends that were with him are saying. Noah Smedley, the deceased, did absolutely nothing. He wasn't armed himself. He didn't offer any violence. There was no good reason for killing him. The Crown say it was an utterly pointless killing, other than this defendant's unhealthy interest in knives and habitual carrying of such lethal weapons, and a bravado to try and show others he was some kind of big man in the streets. His name was Charles, but he went by the name Lil C. So Hartle actually chose not to give any evidence in his defence. The jury of 7 women and 5 men heard how, following the fatal stabbing, Hartle first went to a nearby party where his girlfriend was and then fled to Derby before his father drove to the city centre and brought him home to Stanley. The accused was wearing different clothing to what he had on at the time of the stabbing, and the knife and his phone were not on him and have never been recovered. The defendant was then driven to Ilkeston police station where he was arrested for murder. The prosecutor said in a prepared statement given to the police who questioned him. Firstly, he said that he accepted responsibility for inflicting the injury of Noah Smedley. He said, "There is a history to this, and Noah and I did not get on. He has in the past made numerous threats to me and made disparaging comments. He had threatened me with violence. I know he sold drugs, and often those that do arm themselves is a matter of routine. I saw him reach for his waistband. I immediately feared serious violence from him, and that he had a knife. I was petrified that he was about to lunge at me. In that split second, I instinctively lashed out with the knife I had in self-defence. I did not aim it anyway. It was just a simple reaction and never intended causing serious harm. I then sprinted away from the situation to save myself." So a total of 8 people arrested in connection with the police investigation. The other 7 people all subsequently released without charge. Detective Constable Emma Barnes Marriott, an officer of the case, said Noah was an unarmed teenager who was simply meeting with friends on the night Charles Hartle decided to end his life. Noah did not threaten Hartle and showed nothing but friendliness towards him that evening, and yet he was brutally murdered. Charles Hartle is a callous and calculating young man who has shown no recognition or remorse for taking another teenager's life. He carried a knife with the intention to use it over what appears to be a petty disagreement that only he was aware of, and a sense of bravado. He said, "I'd like to thank Noah's family for their support during our investigation and the trial. No family should have to go through the ordeal of losing a loved one, especially at such a young age, and to have to relive their last moments at trial is an additional blow that Hartle could have spared them from. Instead, despite overwhelming evidence, he remained silent and refused to take responsibility for Noah's murder. So I don't know that nothing will bring back Noah, but I hope that today's verdict has proved and provided his family with some comfort that justice has been served." So it's believed that Hartle must serve a life sentence, and he must serve a minimum of 20 years in prison. Absolute madness coming out from the streets of Derby, guys. The UK is finished, let me tell you that. The UK is absolutely finished. Leave your comments below. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.